Long time ago, in a far kingdom called Green Valley, there lived a king named King Matthew. He was a good man. He ruled with wisdom. People in Green Valley lived in peace. Farmers planted yam and cassava. Hunters brought bush meat. The rivers flowed. Birds sang. Life was sweet. But something happened. Something nobody expected. The king had only one child, a girl. Her name was Princess Diana. She was loved by all. Her smile made the whole palace shine. Her voice was soft like rain on a rooftop. Her heart was kind. She gave food to beggars. She visited sick people. She even went to the market without guards sometimes. One day, during the festival of rain, the people gathered in the palace square. There was drumming, dancing, and food. But while the drummers beat the drum and the girls danced in circles, the princess stood up to talk and suddenly fell to the ground. Everyone screamed. The king jumped from his throne. My daughter, my only child. They carried her into the palace. Her eyes were closed. Her skin became pale. Her fingers turned cold. The palace healers tried herbs. They boiled leaves, pounded roots, and gave her to drink. She did not open her eyes. They called the wise woman of the hills, Mama Ruth. She came with her bag of ancient powder. She looked at the girl and shook her head slowly. This is not ordinary sickness, she said. The king shouted. What do you mean? Mama Ruth whispered. This is a curse. A deep curse. The king fell to the ground and wept. They placed Princess Diana inside a long wooden casket, carved with elephant and lion designs, not to bury her, but to keep her body safe. The casket was placed in a room guarded by 20 strong warriors. Every morning, the queen came to sit beside it, crying, Wake up, my child. Please wake up. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. But the princess did not move. Far away, in a small village called Stonepath, lived a young man named David. He was a tailor. He used needle and thread to sew clothes for people. David had never seen the palace. He had never spoken to a king. But one night, he had a strange dream. In the dream, a girl in white stood beside a big river. She looked like she was crying. Her eyes were full of pain. She said, David, David, come to Green Valley. I am cold. I am trapped. He woke up in sweat. The next night, the same dream came. He told his grandmother. She was an old woman who had dreams too. She said, you are being called. That girl is not ordinary. You must go. But I'm just a tailor, David said. No, she replied. You are more than that. The river has chosen you. David packed his bag. He wore his old sandals. He took some food, water, and his sewing bag. Then he started walking. He walked for 7 days and 7 nights. He crossed rivers, climbed hills, slept in the forest, ate roasted yam with strangers. He was tired, but he kept going. Something was pulling him. On the 8th morning, he saw the gates of Green Valley. Soldiers stopped him. Where are you going? To see the princess, he said. They laughed. You? Who are you? I was sent, David said with calm eyes. The guards looked at each other. Something about the way he spoke made them pause. They took him inside. And that was the first time David saw the palace. It was big, white stones, tall pillars, flags flying in the sky. They took him to the king. King Matthew looked tired. His eyes were red. Why are you here? David knelt down. I had a dream. A girl in white called me. She was crying by a river. The king stood up slowly. His voice shook. Describe the girl. David said. Her hair was dark. Her face soft. Her dress had gold thread. Her eyes were full of pain. The queen shouted, That is my daughter. The king said, Take him to the room. When David entered the room, he saw the wooden casket. It was beautiful, smooth, carved. On top lay Princess Diana, just as in the dream. David felt cold. He walked slowly. He touched her hand. It was cold, but he did not remove his hand. He closed his eyes and said, I have come. And then something strange happened. The wind outside changed. The windows shook. The candles in the room flickered, and the princess moved her finger. Only one finger, but it moved. The room was quiet. David stood beside the wooden casket, still holding the princess's hand. The queen gasped, Did you see that? Yes, said David. Her finger moved. The king rushed forward. Are you sure? David nodded. I saw it with my own eyes. The guards standing outside ran in. What is happening? Silence, shouted the queen. Something is working. Let the boy speak. David stood up. His hands were shaking, but his voice was strong. This is not ordinary sickness. The dream was not just a dream. Something is holding her. Something deep. The king looked at Mama Ruth, the wise woman. You said it was a curse. Mama Ruth nodded slowly. Yes, a powerful one. The curse did not just touch her body. It touched her spirit. Her soul is locked in the land of shadows. David turned to her. How can we bring her back? Mama Ruth took a deep breath. There is an old story, from the time of our fathers' fathers, a story about the broken mirror. Everyone looked at her, confused. She continued, there was once a magic mirror. It could show the true heart of anyone who looked into it. The mirror was hidden in the mountain caves. Long ago, a jealous queen broke the mirror in anger, and the pieces scattered. That queen was cursed, and her bloodline was cursed too. The king's face changed. That queen, she was my great-grandmother. Yes, Mama Ruth said. The curse follows blood. It sleeps for years, then wakes up. Princess Diana is the one carrying it now. The queen cried. So what do we do? Let her die? No, said Mama Ruth, there is still hope. But the one who brings her back must find one piece of that mirror. It is hidden in the forest of ashes. David stepped forward. I will go. The whole palace went silent. The king said, young man, are you sure? That forest has swallowed brave hunters. Nobody returns. David said, I did not come this far to go back. I will find the mirror. That night, they gave David food and water. They dressed him in a simple hunter's robe. Mama Ruth gave him a leather pouch with white chalk and a red stone. She said, draw the chalk on your forehead when you enter the forest, and never sleep under any talking tree. David asked, talking tree? Yes, she said. In the forest of ashes, not everything is alive, and not everything is dead. Before dawn, David set out, alone. He crossed the stream that sang like a flute. He passed the whispering rocks. He saw birds with eyes that glowed like fireflies. The air grew cold. The trees grew strange. Soon, the leaves were no longer green. They were grey. The trees looked burnt. The ground was covered in ash. Every step left a mark. He had entered the forest of ashes. He walked for hours. No sound. No animal. No wind. Suddenly, he heard something. A voice. David. He turned around. No one. David. It was a woman's voice. Soft. Sweet. He looked up and saw a tree. A tall tree with red leaves. It had a mouth. The bark moved like lips. Come, rest under my shade. David remembered what Mama Ruth said. He shook his head. I will not rest. The tree laughed. Then you will walk forever. David closed his ears and walked faster. More trees started whispering. Stay, just rest. 1 minute. He kept walking. He was tired, but he did not stop. After some time, he saw a small hill. At the top of the hill was a stone statue. It was a woman holding a mirror. He ran up. The mirror was broken, but one piece remained, glowing like the sun. David touched it. Fire entered his hand. He screamed, but he did not let go. The mirror piece sank into his palm. His eyes turned white. He fell to the ground. In the palace, at that exact moment, Princess Diana's eyes opened, but only halfway. Her lips moved. She whispered, he has found it. The queen fainted. The king shouted, call Mama Ruth. In the forest, David woke up. The sun was setting. The ash was falling like rain. He stood up. His palm still glowed. He turned and walked back. But now the forest was alive. Snakes of smoke followed him. Shadows ran through the trees. A woman with no eyes screamed at him from a branch. The ground cracked under his feet. But David did not stop. He ran. He jumped. He fell. He stood again. He did not stop. At the palace gate, 3 days later, a guard shouted, someone is coming. They opened the gate. David entered, covered in ash, dirty, tired, but alive. In his hand, he held nothing, but his palm glowed. Mama Ruth smiled. He made it. They took him to the princess's room. David knelt beside her. He touched her forehead with his glowing palm. There was silence. Then wind rushed through the room. The wooden casket broke in two. Princess Diana sat up slowly. Her skin had color. Her eyes were clear. She looked at David and said, thank you. The whole kingdom came alive when they heard Princess Diana had woken up. Drums beat. Bells rang. People danced in the streets. Some ran to the palace to see for themselves. Old women threw white powder in the air. Children sang. It was like light had entered the land again. Inside the palace, the king could not stop smiling. He held David's hand and said, you are no longer just a visitor. From today, this is your home. The queen hugged her daughter, crying, my child, my baby girl, you came back to me. Princess Diana looked weak, but she was smiling. I saw darkness. I saw chains, but I heard David's voice calling me. That was the light. Mama Ruth was watching them all quietly. She did not smile. The king turned to her. Mama, the curse is broken. She is well. But Mama Ruth shook her head slowly. No, the chains are not gone. Only one layer is off. Something deeper is still holding her. The queen frowned. But she is awake. Yes, Mama Ruth said. But something else has entered her. Her sleep is over. But the real danger is just starting. The king's face changed. Princess Diana turned to Mama Ruth. What do you mean? Mama Ruth came close. She touched Diana's chest with her palm. Her eyes turned white. She closed them for a moment. Then she opened them and said, "There is a voice under the palace. It is calling your name." Everyone looked around. The queen whispered, "Under the palace?" Mama Ruth nodded. "Many years ago, your great-grandmother built this palace on a hidden shrine. That shrine belongs to an old spirit, the Mother of Night." The king gasped. "I thought that was just a tale." "It is not," Mama Ruth said. "Your daughter woke up, but the Mother of Night woke up too." That night, Princess Diana could not sleep. She sat on her bed, shaking. She kept hearing a sound. Doom, doom, doom. It was like a drum, beating slowly, from underground. She looked out her window. The sky was dark, but no stars. She stood up, barefoot, and walked to the mirror in her room. She looked at her reflection, but something was wrong. The reflection was not copying her. It smiled. She did not. It raised one hand. She raised the other. It laughed. Then it said, "You came back, but not alone." Diana screamed. Guards rushed in. David too came running. "What happened?" he asked. Princess Diana was on the floor, crying. "I saw something. In the mirror. The mirror was now empty. Just glass." The queen rushed in. "This is getting worse." Mama Ruth entered last. "She is being called," she said. "We have little time." The king said, "What must we do now?" Mama Ruth looked at the floor. "We must go under the palace." By morning, the whole royal family, David, Mama Ruth, and some guards stood at the back of the palace, behind the kitchen. There was a big stone door on the ground, covered with sand and dry leaves. Nobody had touched that door in over 100 years. Mama Ruth pointed at it. "This is where it sleeps." Two guards tried to lift the stone. It was too heavy. David came forward. He touched the stone with his glowing palm. The stone cracked. Smoke came out. They opened it. Steps led down into darkness. The king said, "This looks like a tomb." Mama Ruth said, "It is not a tomb. It is a mouth." "A mouth?" the queen asked. "Yes, the mouth that swallowed your daughter's spirit." They lit their torches and went down. The stairs were old, cracked, cold. Spiders ran, bats flew. At the bottom, there was a large cave, dark, wet, and full of strange carvings on the wall. Princess Diana stopped. She touched her head. "I hear it again," David said. "What is it saying?" She replied slowly. "It says, 'Your blood is mine.'" Mama Ruth walked to the center of the cave. There was a round stone table. A bowl sat on it, full of black water. She said, "This is the altar. The spirit wants a body, and it wants Diana's." The queen shouted, "Never. She just came back." Mama Ruth looked up. "Then we must do what no one has done before. We must trap the spirit." The king asked how. She looked at David. "Only one who touched the mirror piece can enter the next door. The real shrine is deeper. The cave has a second gate." David said, "I will go." Mama Ruth warned, "Inside, you will see strange things. Do not speak to them. Do not touch anything unless it calls your true name." Princess Diana held his hand. "Be careful." He nodded. "For you. I will go anywhere." David stepped forward. Another stone door appeared, without anyone touching it. It opened by itself. He entered. The door closed behind him. Inside, David saw a small river. The water was red. He crossed it. He saw a woman sitting on a chair of bones. Her face was hidden with a veil. She said, "David." He froze. "I have waited," she said. "You broke the seal." David said nothing. She stood up. Her feet did not touch the ground. She walked close. "You brought the mirror piece. Give it to me, and the girl will be free forever." David looked at his palm. It was still glowing. He remembered Mama Ruth's words. "Do not touch anything unless it calls your true name." The woman said, "Give it, David." "Save her." David frowned. Then he said slowly, "What is my full name?" The woman smiled. "David, David the Brave." He shook his head. "That is not my true name. That is what the villagers call me." The woman screamed. Her veil fell off. She had no face, only fire. David raised his palm. The fire from his hand rose. It hit the spirit. The ground shook. The ceiling broke. Back in the cave, the altar broke into pieces. Princess Diana screamed again, then fell. But this time, when she opened her eyes, they were clear. Mama Ruth touched her head. "It is over," she whispered. David came out of the gate, coughing. He fell to his knees. Princess Diana ran to him. "Are you all right?" He smiled. "Yes. I just fought a fire with my bare hands." They returned to the palace. That night, the sky was full of stars. The king called a feast. He stood and announced, "From this day, David is no longer a visitor. He is a prince, and one day he shall marry my daughter, the princess who came back from the land of death." The people clapped. They danced. Mama Ruth just smiled to herself and whispered, "The ancestors have won this round." The palace was quiet that night, but not the heart of the princess. Princess Diana could not sleep. She turned from one side of her bed to the other. She tried to close her eyes, but they kept opening. She even drank the warm leaf water the queen told her to drink when sleep was hiding. Still, sleep did not come. She kept hearing that slow drumbeat inside her head. Doom, doom, doom. She touched her chest. That same spot that burned when she was inside the casket was still warm. She sat up and looked at her window. The moon was full, but it was red. She had never seen a red moon before. She stood and walked to the mirror. This time, her reflection was normal. It did not smile. It did not wave, but something still felt wrong. Suddenly, she heard a whisper behind her ear. Just one word. Mine. She jumped and turned back. Nobody there. In the morning, David came to visit her. He was holding some wildflowers in his hand. "Good morning, my princess." She smiled a little. "Good morning, my brave man." But he could see she was not smiling with her whole face. "You didn't sleep?" She shook her head. "Something is still inside me." David sat beside her. "I thought we defeated the spirit." "I thought so too. But I still hear it. I still feel it. Like I left something with it. Or it left something with me." David held her hand. "Then we will fight it again." That evening, Mama Ruth returned to the palace. She had gone to the mountains to speak with the wind elders. Those are old spirits that don't show themselves easily. She entered the palace tired. "Bring me water," she said. The queen brought a clay cup with water and put it in Mama Ruth's hand. Mama Ruth drank, then spoke slowly. "I went to ask the wind if truly the girl is free." The wind said yes, but the wind also said no. The king frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means the girl came back, but part of her spirit still remained in the shrine." The queen gasped. "So she's not whole?" "She is living," Mama Ruth said, "but the mother of night left a mark. And if we don't clean it, she will slowly change." "Change into what?" David asked. Mama Ruth turned to Diana. "Into her." From that day, strange things started to happen. When Diana walked near plants, the leaves dried. When she touched fire, the fire turned black. One time, she slept in the afternoon and woke up on the roof of the palace. Nobody knew how she got there. Even animals began to fear her. The royal cat ran whenever it saw her. One night, the queen came to her room to sit with her. Just mother and daughter. They sat in silence for long. Then the queen said, "My child, can I ask you something?" Diana looked up. "Yes, Mama." The queen touched her cheek gently. "Do you still feel like yourself?" Diana tried to speak, but her mouth could not open. Then tears fell from her eyes. "I don't know who I am anymore." The king called Mama Ruth. "We must remove the mark," he said. "I cannot lose my child again." Mama Ruth nodded. "Then she must go to the Hill of Silence." David asked, "What is that?" "It is a lonely hill, far away, where no sound lives, no bird sings, no leaf moves. It is where people go to meet their true spirit." Diana said, "I will go." The king shook his head. "It is dangerous." "I will go," she repeated. David stood beside her. "Then I will follow her." Mama Ruth raised her hand. "No, she must go alone. If anybody follows her, she will never come back." 2 days later, before the sun rose, Diana dressed in simple wrapper. No crown, no necklace. She carried only one thing, a calabash Mama Ruth gave her. She walked far, past rivers, past thick bushes, past hills, until she reached the Hill of Silence. There, no sound lived. Even her footsteps made no noise. She climbed slowly. Her legs hurt. Her mouth was dry, but she kept going. At the top, she saw a small hut, old, made of mud and bones. She entered. Inside, she met an old woman sitting by a black fire. The woman had no eyes, but she saw. She had no mouth, but she spoke. "You brought the calabash." Diana nodded. The old woman said, "Inside that calabash is your truth. If you drink it, you will see who you are. If you break it, you will forget your pain, but become someone else forever." Diana sat down. She opened the calabash. Smoke came out. She looked inside. Then she drank. Suddenly, everything around her disappeared. She was standing in darkness. She looked down. Her feet were not touching ground. Then she saw a girl. The girl looked just like her, but younger, innocent, clean. That girl said, "You used to be me." Then another girl appeared. This one wore a crown of fire, her eyes red. She said, "You are becoming me." Princess Diana stood between them. She cried, "What do I do?" The younger girl said, "Remember who you are." The fire girl said, "Forget pain. Take power." Diana closed her eyes. She shouted, "I am not yours." The fire girl screamed and turned into ash. The young innocent girl smiled and walked into Diana's body. Diana woke up in the hut. The fire was gone. The old woman was gone. She stepped outside. The hill was quiet. But now, birds were flying. Leaves were moving. She smiled for the first time in many days. She walked back to the kingdom. When she reached the gate, the people shouted, "She has returned." She entered the palace. Her parents ran to her. Mama Ruth looked into her eyes, then smiled. The mark is gone. That night, David came to her. They sat in the palace garden. He looked into her eyes. She looked into his. He said, "You look like peace." She said, "I met myself and came back whole." He held her hand, and they stayed there, quiet, while the stars danced above. The whole kingdom of Dovland was full of joy. After many months of crying, sickness, strange dreams, and almost losing the princess, peace had returned. The sky was blue again. The flowers began to bloom again. Even the birds that once flew away came back to the trees around the palace and started singing again. Everybody was talking about one thing. The princess is whole again. One evening, the king called the elders of the land. They all sat in the great hall, with the walls made of stones and stories. The king stood up slowly and said, "My people, today I want to make an announcement." The drum stopped. Silence entered the room. The king continued, "Many times we talk about war, land, food, and power. But today, we will talk about healing." He looked at Diana, who was standing beside him. "This girl, my only daughter, died and came back. She saw what no one else saw. She carried pain we could not see, but she did not let it destroy her. She fought and returned whole." All the elders stood and clapped. Some cried. Some lifted their walking sticks in the air. Mama Ruth smiled and whispered, "Strong blood does not die easily." Then the king said one more thing. "The time has come for a new story to begin. I give my blessing. Let the wedding bells ring." The whole kingdom danced that night. From old women with bent backs to small children with thin legs, everybody was dancing. They wore white wrappers and red beads. They carried lanterns, drums, and flutes. The air smelled like roasted goat meat and palm wine. David, the humble hunter, now wore the royal cloth. His eyes still held the forest, but his heart now lived in the palace. Princess Diana wore a simple but beautiful wrapper, tied across her chest. Her hair was covered with fresh flowers. The marriage was not about gold or silver. It was about survival, about love, about choosing peace over power. But something strange happened that same night. While everyone danced in the open field, an old man from the village called Jethro walked into the palace quietly. Jethro was not ordinary. He was a blind man, but he was born blind, so he could see things others could not see. He entered the princess's old room, the one she once slept in before the sickness. He sat on the floor, placed his hand on the ground, and began to hum. After some time, he opened his mouth and said to himself, "The mark has been removed, but the gate has been opened." The next morning, while the kingdom was still celebrating, Jethro called the king privately. "My king," he said, "there is a story still hiding in the shadows." The king frowned. "What do you mean?" Jethro pointed to the princess. "She is healed, yes, but her journey has unlocked something. The same shrine that took her in is still calling others." The king grew worried. "So what do we do?" Jethro replied, "Prepare the land. Teach the children. Tell the story again and again, because the darkness will try again. But only the story can save them." Years passed. Diana and David had 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. They did not name them after kings or warriors. They named them after feelings. The first boy was named Peace. The second was Light. And the girl was called Hope. Every full moon, Diana would sit with them and tell them her story. She told them about the casket, the drumbeats, the mother of night, the fire-crowned girl, the hill of silence, the choice she had to make. She told them everything. Hope once asked, "Mama, were you afraid?" Diana said, "Yes, my child, but I did not let fear carry me." Peace said, "What saved you?" Diana touched his chest gently. "Knowing who I am, and not forgetting it." That became a lesson in Dovland. They stopped fearing the dark. Instead, they taught every child how to light their own fire. They sang songs of strength. They made carvings of Diana's journey. They built a small shrine, not for worship, but for remembrance, to remind the people that sometimes a casket is not the end, but the beginning of something greater. One day, when Diana had grown old, she sat under the mango tree in the palace yard. Her grandchild came to her and asked, "Mama, is the story true?" Diana looked at the sky, then looked at the child, and said slowly, "Child, the story is not only true, it is still happening." Then she smiled, the same smile she had the first day David gave her wildflowers.